Oh yeah, that Magic.
No.
Magic. Shut up, Magic. Shut up.
Wait.
But
No.
I would say.
Hold on. This is still Magic now.
I love Magic. I can't stand Urban's tweets though. I love Magic though. Jimmy Butler can be abrasive. He can be a little loud. He can rub people the wrong way. Miami says, bring all your flaws, baby. That James Brown. I don't care about your past. I just want our love to last. I think what we're about to see is the real Celtics and the real Heat, because Rita, I'm telling you, they don't really respect one another. They don't. When they went up 3-0, Eric Spoelstra said, we have deep respect for them. No, you don't. You're lying.
I'm not flip-flopping. I'm just feeling a little wobbly right now. You could see how this could happen if the Celtics continue to make their threes, continue to not turn it over. If that team shows up again, man, I could see it happening. I don't want nobody to dig in the archives of Brother from Another, and then I'm one of these people in the highlight reel saying, this team, break up this team. They are not who we thought they were or could be, and maybe it's just time to break this duo up. Everybody knew there would be a blowout in Boston last night. Everybody saw a blowout coming. Everybody saw a blowout coming. Just not at the expense of the Celtics.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
That's right.
I still can't get over this weekend. A lot has happened since I saw you Thursday, before we gave way to Ladies First Friday here on Brother from Another. Between Game 6, the Succession finale, and last night, I don't know where to begin. But we talked about, as this series was shifting and becoming an actual competitive series, whether it was more about what the Celtics were doing or what the Heat were doing, more about Miami, more about Boston. And usually when there's a close series, and that's what a 7-game series is, despite the outcome of Game 7, it was a close series. It was a competitive series. It was a compelling series.
Compelling, yes.
I think there's a definitive answer here. And while we do our postmortems on Boston, and we're going to do that today, we're gonna figure out what's next for the Celtics. Nickels worth of free advice, consultation services, courtesy of Brother from Another, on what the Celtics should do, where they should go from here. How do they get over this proverbial hump? But in the matter of the 2023 Eastern Conference Finals, and the question of whether it was more about Boston's failure or the Heat's success, it is undeniably, unequivocally, unquestionably all about Heat culture, all about the Miami Heat. It doesn't matter what happened to Jason Tatum on the first possession. It doesn't matter if the Celtics went, 9 for 42 from 3. It doesn't matter whether, as I said after Game 3, and that take didn't age well, but then it turns out I was probably right, that the Celtics collective hearts pump Kool-Aid. All I know is, sorry to be corny, you could change the name of this organization to the Miami Heart. Just add an R, or put an R in parentheses between the A and the T. Because for this team to come from losing the first play-in game, barely winning the second play-in game, they lost to the Atlanta Hawks, they barely beat the Chicago Bulls, and to now be in the NBA Finals as the second 8th seed in NBA history? There was history made last night. There was history made in the Garden, Michael, because while the Celtics did not become the first team to fall into an 0-3 hole and come back and win the series, it's now 151 tries and 151 failures in that regard.
Yep.
What the Miami Heat did was become the first team to take a 3-0 lead, lose that 3-0 lead, lose it in the most excruciating of fashions, courtesy of Derek White, then come back and get off the canvas from that gut punch, come back and win Game 7 on the road. Who comes back from that? Nobody, and I mean nobody, thought that outside of Miami, thought that the Miami Heat would not only win Game 7, but blow out Boston in Game 7 after what had just transpired in the previous 3 games. So for me, Michael, this is less about what Miami avoided, historically speaking, and more about what Miami achieved and accomplished, which was winning Game 7. Because once the Celtics won the previous 3, it was no longer about Miami losing a 3-0 lead. They both had one game to win for their lives.
One game.
One game for their seasons.
Win one game.
It was in Boston, and everybody named Mama in Boston, I ain't got to tell you, you there. Like last time we talked, I know you weren't buying into it, but by the time Game 7 rolled around, it was a fait accompli. It was a matter of it was a win, not an if, and it was a win and a how, not an if Boston was going to go to the NBA Finals, and Miami was going to be sent packing, having suffered a collapse that was unprecedented. And yet, here they are, here they stand, the Miami Heat, back in the NBA Finals. To me, man, like, yeah, does Boston have flaws? Yeah, but this is about Miami's strengths more than Boston's weaknesses.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right. And, think back to your writing days. Once a writer, always a writer. But think back to your writing days. And I don't know if you looked at it this way. I used to. And I would say, if something, because, as you know, I took a little time to get stories in sometimes, pushing deadline, missing deadlines. But yeah, you know that.
Some legendary shit right there, boy.
Yeah, that's right. But
have we ever told people? Wait a minute, hold on. Don't lose your thought.
I think
we shared a lot.
Go ahead.
But did we?
Well, go ahead.
Just to remind people.
Tell them again.
If there were a record kept for missing deadline, I'm pretty sure Michael Holley has the record having missed the deadline from the Olympics in Sydney, Australia with a 24-hour lead. You want to talk about blowing a 3-0 lead? Like, this dude had a 24-hour head start on the article, on a column, and was late. The desk had to call him in Sydney.
That's amazing.
Hell, I think they might have called me. Like, yo, you heard from Michael? Like, that's hard to do.
Hey. That's hard to do. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It really is. It really is.
You can be out there in Sydney. You can be out there in Sydney with a 24-hour head start, and the best thing you got is a blank screen. Okay.
Man,
but
unbelievable.
but part of the reason it took me so long to write those articles, because if it came too easily, I would say, is that too much of a cliche? That's not a really original.
Yeah.
That came too easily.
Ooh, I see where you're going. I see where you're going here. I see what you're doing.
Too easily.
I see what you're doing. Keep going, preacher.
But you know what? It's funny when you talk about the Miami Heat and everybody thought it was going to be a blowout. I'm like, Mike, you just mentioned 150 teams before Boston tried to do this, and Vegas and everybody else predicted history. I mean, that's not how it works. You can't say this has never happened before, but
so this
starting
is the time
in
it's
Game
going to
4,
happen.
yeah, in Game 4 it started. They were favored in Game 4. They were favored to win in Game 5. They were favored to win Game 6. And history, they're 8-point favorites to 7-point favorites in Game 7. It's not going to be
But nobody had been at home. But nobody had been at home, though, Michael. That's the only thing about those previous 150.
But still, it's still in basketball and hard. Even if you've got a great team, a historically great team, and a team that's just okay, it's just hard to sweep a team. I know it's been done before, and we've seen it done in our lifetimes, but it's just hard to do that, especially when you've been down 3-0 to come back and win 4 straight. And so, or just to sweep through 4 games. Let's put it that way.
But no, I like what you said, because it kind of would have been effectively a sweep. If you win 4 straight games, I mean, that's almost like a different series and you swept. So no, I get it. I get what you're saying.
And so I think that really tells a story of who Boston is right now and who Miami is. Everything you said about Miami is absolutely right. Miami is, if you need something, if you need to see how it plays with the public, or see how what the authenticity or staying power of a product is, bring in the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are your focus group. If you want to know what you got, put it up against the Miami Heat, and the Heat will bring out the truth of what something is. And that's
Right.
what that's who they are. They will drain you. They will take away all the pretense, and they will get you down to your
They're the control.
essence.
They're the control
That's
in
it.
the experiment. Yeah.
What is his team? Okay, put them up against the Miami Heat. We'll find out. So
Right.
what was Milwaukee? Not much.
Yeah.
Not that much, especially with an injured Giannis out in 5 games. New York, hey, New York stand up. Not much, out in 6 games against the Miami Heat. And Boston, we saw everything. Miami, we saw all the craziness of Boston. We saw all their personalities. We saw everything of the Boston Celtics, courtesy of the Miami Heat. They are a team that will mess around with the game.
And worst.
That will go down zip 3. They are a team that will look amazing and come back and tie it up at 3. They are a team in Game 6.
They are a team that will be up by 10. They will be up by 10 in Game 6 and then damn near and then almost lose it and then win it on a miracle. Yeah, absolutely.
Win it on a tip-in. And then in Game 7, everything's set up. Hey, they're the better team. Jason Tatum walks in. He's got the beautiful anything is possible jacket on.
Did he already have that, or did he have that specially made in time for Game 7? Do we know what the story is behind that?
He looked good. See, his fashion choices in the series were lovely, but the ironies of his fashion choices, they just kind of, they didn't land the way he wanted them to. He missed at the wrong time. So right before Game 3, he had on an all-white suit. You know, the Miami White Party. And that was their worst game in the playoffs. So he's got the white suit on. He's looking very Miami, but at the wrong time. That's Game 3. Game 7, anything is possible. It's supposed to be a message for him and his teammates, and it's a message for the Miami Heat. Anything is possible. First time in 24 years that a number 8 seed has gone to the NBA Finals. So look, props to the Miami Heat. They have done everything. They've done everything that you could ask your team to do, and that's why I like them. I like that Eric Spoelstra always gets the most out of his team.
Right.
He's had one underachiever. He's had one underachieving team. That was the first LeBron, Bosh, Wade team. The first one.
Yeah, but that wasn't even his fault. Because it's like because when your best player checks out, and I'm not one of those people that hold 2011 against LeBron. I'm not one of those people that do that. But that's a LeBron loss. Okay, that's I don't even count that against Spo. I'm glad you brought up Spo. One of, and look, top 2 and he ain't 2 coaches of this era. Okay, this is the same dude. Speaking of LeBron, and LeBron once bumped on the way to the bench. That once upon a time was like, hey man, might have to get Pat Riley to come back downstairs. And he takes a backseat to nobody in terms of coaching. But you were preaching just now. Can we talk about prophesying, please? Because Jimmy Butler sat there last year and said, this cannot be made enough of. You cannot overstate this. You cannot, this story, sorry, you talk about writing stories. Like, this is your lead. This is your nut graph. And you're coming back to this to end the story. This dude got up at a podium and said, we're going to be right here next year in this same situation, and we're going to get it done. Okay? He also said at the end of Game 6, you will keep getting the same test until you pass it. Okay? Eric Spoelstra said at the end of Game 6. Come on. At the end of Game 6, I wish we could play this right now. Right now, we are going to get this done. They never wavered.
I don't know. How about that, though? He said, I don't know how we're going to get this done, how we're going to get it done. But we will. And that's what the next 48 hours are about. I don't know right now. Hey, you know what, Eric Spoelstra, I know your dad was a basketball man. I think he spent some time in the black church. Boy, that's one of those. That's one of those, I don't know who this is for. But let me say.
Right. But they never blink, they never flinch. You see it in all the games that they've come back from, just in these playoffs, facing deficits or double-digit deficits. It's uncanny the way this team just keeps on coming at you with everything they have.
Mike.
And listen, man, I know Jason Tatum sprained his ankle. Some people out there are probably affixing an asterisk to Game 7 saying, yeah, but Tatum was compromised almost. You can't, because I'm sorry. This had, if Jason Tatum, and it's easy for me to say, even if Jason Tatum would have been happy, even if Jason Tatum would have been healthy, Miami wasn't losing this game. They just weren't losing this game. They were not going to come to Boston. And I know, it's a great story about them only booking the flight to Denver, but they were not coming to Boston and leaving anything other than victorious. You know what? I'm gonna tell you a quick AAU story. The director of our program, Deshaun Hawkins, we had a game 2 weekends ago, and it was the third game of a tournament, and we were in the losers bracket. Like we had lost a game or two the previous day, and we lost a very tough game on that Sunday. And he said to the team afterward, he's like, you know why we lost this game, guys? And people were like, turnovers or intensity. He's like, no. He was like, that team just decided that they were not gonna take a 4-hour bus ride home as losers. That y'all were gonna have to sit with this shit. Y'all were gonna be the ones driving home sick to your stomachs. They were not gonna be the ones driving home. It was as simple as that. They were not going home to Canada, wherever they were from, losers. And when I see the Miami Heat, I see a team that just was not going to be denied no matter what it took in Game 7. That was a bad break, an unfortunate stroke of luck for the Celtics, but I really don't think the Celtics' problems in Game 7 and in general started and ended with Jason Tatum's ankle. I think it's bigger than that for them.
No, it is. It's a lot bigger than that. And I'm going to tell you, one of the things with the Celtics, and this is the parent in me talking, and you understand where I'm coming from, and a lot of parents do too. They are, like I said, they're gifted and they're self-destructive. And so I think one day they will figure it out. I'm not one of these, break up the Jays people.
I am.
Oh, you got to.
I am.
I'm not.
We'll get to that after the break. We'll get to that.
I know.
Okay.
But that's not the problem. That's not the problem. It's not breaking up. It's not breaking up Jaylen Brown.
It's not breaking up. It's growing up. It's not breaking up. It's growing up.
It's perspective. It's perspective. They have to, and it's the entire organization has to have a different perspective. And I'll say, and we'll get to it later, but even Joe Mazzulla, I've been very hard on him all year. I think Joe Mazzulla will figure it out too. But Joe Mazzulla is like his team. He's too young, too immature, and doesn't know what he doesn't know. He would be the perfect coach. If we could do a trade right now, if we could do a trade with the Houston Rockets and get your previous coach back, you get Ime Udoka back here. And
that ship might have sailed.
Oh yeah, it sailed. It sailed, and you'd have to. No, I'm not gonna. But you're like Ime for Joe. I think that would help both franchises, because Joe Mazzulla has a lot to learn, and the team that he coaches has a lot to learn, and they were starting to get it under Ime. They were starting to understand it, and then all hell broke loose in that organization.
But you said they got a lot to learn, Professor.
It's here.
But Professor,
it's here.
You said they got a lot to learn. They on the same chapter. They're on the same chapter.
Right.
I would buy into that if it was like a first round loss or a second round and they were taking these progressive steps. Like, this team has been in this moment either in the conference finals or the NBA finals last year, and it's the same shit. It's the same thing.
But listen, I know, yeah, it may be, but I don't know. You just quoted him. Let's go back to the Reverend Dr. Jimmy, not James, Jimmy Butler III. The Reverend Dr. Jimmy Butler said, I believe, this is after Game 6, I believe you'll keep getting the same test. Preach it. Until you pass
it.
You'll keep getting the same test until you pass it. So I'm going to take Jimmy's words. The Boston Celtics will be right back here next year. They will. They'll be back here next year. What are you going to do with that opportunity? What are you going to do when you have an opportunity? Are you going to get yourself down zip 3? Are you going to close when you have the ability to close? Are you going to finish with a winning record at home? Over the last 2 years, how about this stat? Blows my mind. Over the last 2 years, they have the worst home playoff record in the history of basketball. Wow! In the last 2 years, the worst home record in the history of the game. So
That's a long.
they have
It's a long
they have
time.
the ability. That is, they have the ability to get there. They also have the ability to screw it up. How are you going to deal with that? Are you going to wrestle with that, or are you going to make excuses, or are you going to get over that hump?
Okay.
And I think eventually they'll get over that hump. Eventually.
Okay.
I do.
I disagree, but I'll save that for after the break, and we'll also get more insight from Boston. You want to talk about something that blew your mind? You know what else blew my mind? First city, I beg your pardon. First city. You know, I love Boston. That's why I met my wife. That's where my kids are born. My kids are Celtics fans. First city to ever lose 2 home game 7s to an 8 seed in 2 sports. Hockey and hoops. Golly.
Hockey.
The struggle is real right now.
Yeah.
You working on that column?
And
Are you working on that column
and-
right now? Could you get that column in on deadline? the depression of Boston right now.
It'll be in a month. Same losing to the same team from the same city.
Same city.
What needs to change for you, for the team, for the organization to kind of get over the hump?
To win a championship?
Yeah.
I mean, we've shown that we can get there. I mean, we get to the conference finals. It's my 4th time in 6 years, and been to the finals once. And you know, we had a special opportunity this year. We just fell a little bit short. It's not like we're not capable. We don't have the talent. You know, we do. You know, it just didn't go our way this year.
We failed. I failed. And we let the whole city down. It stings, like incredibly, and it's hard even being up here and talking about it. But all I can say is give credit to the group that we had this season. Give credit to our coaching staff that we had this season. You know, we had a lot of ups and downs. We had a lot of things that was going on internally, et cetera, and we fought. We fought our way back from down 3-0, and we got to this position, and we came up short.
That's refreshing. I was glad he didn't say there are no failures, there's only steps to success. It was nice to hear him acknowledge that, yes, they went from because when if they would have gotten swept, it would have been bad. But, once they started, once they got to game 4, they were kind of playing with house money. It was just like, hey, can they extend the series? Can they play for pride? Once this thing started gaining momentum, they became the favorites, which makes Game 7 at home a failure. What would be worse is doubling down. So here's where you and I part company on the following. You cannot pay that dude $300 million. I know the reports are that they will, because he's a poor man's version of the other guy. They're the same dude, except he's not as good. And he thinks he's as good.
They're not
They're
the
the same guy.
Go ahead.
Skill set wise, no, the other guy's better. I don't mean they're equal. I don't mean they're equal. I mean they do more or less the same things. And they don't complement with an E each other very well. I don't think you can spend $300 million on Jaylen Brown. This would be I said it when I said break them up after game 3. Something's missing. They can, go be great somewhere else. He's a really good player. Go be great somewhere else. They can win apart from each other.
Hold on.
This is a modern day Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. I don't mean to insult anybody involved. That's an insult on site to all parties. But Russ and KD was only going to go so far together. The Jays are going to only go so far together, and I think we've seen that. What would you go ahead?
But
8 turnovers?
Okay. I'm gonna tell you this.
Why the hell you got the ball that much to be turning over 8 times? Go ahead.
I'm gonna let you get it all out. I'm gonna let you get it all out, and then I'm gonna be Wesley Snipes to your Denzel Washington and Mo Better Blues.
Everything you just said is bullshit.
Everything you just said.
Everything you just said. Everything you said. That's bullshit. Everything you just said is bullshit. The people are gonna come when you play what they like. When you stop playing what they like, the people will come.
Simple as that. Anyway, now look. I think what happens in these situations, that's why I feel like it's best to wait, whether it's basketball, writing, accounting,
Emails.
engineering,
Emails.
whatever it is. It's just best to wait 48 hours.
That was my
not
angry
24
email.
hours.
Yes,
Yeah,
that was an
yeah,
angry email
right.
from me. Yes,
In all caps.
yes.
Angry email,
Yes.
all caps. We have a
Reply
staff
all.
meeting. Staff meeting now. Everything must go.
Yeah.
Because what happens in these situations, we are talking about the team did underperform. They had these shirts that said unfinished business. That was their motto for the season. Unfinished business. They lost in 6 games to the Golden State Warriors last year. And we know the history of the NBA, teams, they usually take turns. So it's the challenger comes up, usually falls short in the conference finals. The next year, the challenger who fell short in the conference finals goes to the next level, maybe goes back to the NBA finals and wins it instead of losing it. We've seen it with the Sixers back in the day against the Lakers. We've seen it with the Pistons against the Celtics.
Yes.
We saw it with
Rites
the
of
Bulls
passage.
against the Pistons.
Yeah.
On and on. It happens like that.
Yeah.
But I think in this course, especially now, when we pay so much attention to the conference finals and NBA finals, these teams are over-scrutinized. Like, nobody's saying that you love Dame Lillard. Nobody's saying Dame Lillard's never going to get there. Nobody's saying like negative things
yeah, they
about
are.
Donovan. but not to this extent. There are some wonderful players who lost in rounds 1 and 2 who are not getting the scrutiny that Jaylen Brown is today. Jaylen Brown played
They're not up for $300 million
yesterday.
They're not about to get paid $300 million coming off 8 turnovers in Game 7 when your team needed you.
But Game 7. But that's Game 7. It's the same guy. Look at
The whole
Jaylen Brown
series.
last year.
Okay, the whole series.
But look at Jaylen Brown last year in the NBA Finals. He was better than Jason Tatum last year in the Finals. So Tatum is better than Brown this year in the conference finals. He's not getting nearly the scrutiny for losing in the conference finals than he did playing poorly in his first NBA Finals. I think we all overreact to great players playing poorly in big situations.
I wouldn't call him a great player. He's a second-team All-NBA player. I wouldn't call him a great player. I would not go so far as to call Jaylen Brown a great player.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that because the guy who got the Eastern Conference Finals MVP trophy, whatever it is, the Larry Bird trophy, is often called a great player. And as I've mentioned before, he plays sometimes he does play great. But we weren't talking about where was homeboy in Game 4, Game 5, Game 6?
Game 6.
Okay, look quiet.
In parts of Game 7,
6.
he was kind of self-checked.
Okay.
He was kind of self-checked.
Yeah,
In parts of Game 7.
So,
he was kind of self-checked.
It happens. It happens even to really good NBA players.
I'm not saying it don't happen, but we are spinning this forward. He, too, is not about to get $300 million. Having said all that, Joe Mazzulla
born at the
seems
wrong
like
time.
he's kind of
He's
sort
born
of
at the wrong time.
Joe Mazzulla seems like he's kind of sort of off the hot seat. A lot of talk about maybe just upgrading his coaching staff, or maybe they need to shift philosophically because they live by the 3 and they for damn sure die by it in Game 7.
Sure, what was the difference between tonight and the last 3 games where you seem to be playing with confidence? The defense was good. There was energy there. Tonight, it just seemed like after the first 6 minutes, something changed.
We shot 21% from 3. Defense was still there.
Is this team too reliant on the three-point shot? Does that have to change?
No.
My man gets straight to the point. He is a man of very few words.
He's too immature, though. He's immature. This ain't the team for him. Yeah, right. He need to go be great somewhere else. He need to be great somewhere else.
Sherrod Blakely is always great. Where do the Celtics go from here? Fix the Celtics, or do they need fixing?
They definitely need fixing. And the fixing that they need isn't going to be something where you're bringing this guy, you're bringing that guy. They need a mental checkup upgrade. They're just not mentally tough enough at this point. When you look at the way this roster's been constructed, when you look at how they seem to disintegrate in the most impactful and significant moments, it's not about X's and O's. It's about mental toughness. And you have to ask yourself, if you're the Boston Celtics, Do we need to get players who are mentally tough, or do we need to get a leader who can bring about a greater level of mental toughness? You guys were talking earlier about Ime Udoka. If there's one thing that they would want to take from Ime's time and bring it to this team, is that very one thing, mental toughness. That was the one thing that you did not, it wasn't as big an issue with that team as we saw this year. Because Game 7 at home with a chance to go to the NBA Finals, I don't really give a damn if Jason Tatum has an ankle twist. You are supposed to find a way to win that game, period. You need to be mentally tough to do that, and they weren't.
All right, so what do you do?
Are you paying Jaylen?
Michael Smith says you can't pay Jaylen Brown $300 million. How about you? If you don't do that, what will you do?
If he even wants to be there, by the way. Sorry, Ace. Even if he wants that from the Celtics. But go ahead.
I'm paying him the money because I don't have a better alternative. I don't want to. This is the thing. Right now, if you're the Celtics, if you keep things as they are, you are going to have a chance to contend for a championship for at least another 2, 3, 4 years. If you were to let him go, you have no idea whether you're going to fall to the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference. And the Celtics know how hard it is to elevate yourself to that top tier and stay there. Right now, they're going to be a team that's going to be in the mix. And Jaylen Brown, whether you like it or not, is a part of that. However, the one thing that Game 7 showed, I think, the world, and this is the thing I love about the playoffs, it is that spotlight on everything and all you're about. You're going to get exposed. And Jaylen Brown, I thought, was exposed as being a great number two guy. But when you give him the keys to the Maybach, it ain't going to ride the way you think it should. It's not going to be as smooth sailing as you think it should be. And 8 turnovers, my goodness. I mean, they only had 15 as a team. So clearly Jaylen wasn't able to meet the moment when he had an opportunity to basically put the entire team on his back.
And those turnovers weren't uncharacteristic. They were emblematic of the fact he does not handle the ball well. And yet the ball is in his hands way too often. So having said all that, to me, you could do worse is not a reason to keep somebody. I'm not a trade machine person. I don't know exactly who they can go out and get, but I don't. Maybe it will require a step back to take a step forward. It just feels like, and again, some of it, Michael's probably right. There's a lot of recency bias on my part here, but it really just feels like sometimes it just ain't meant to be for a certain tandem or a certain construction of players. I think they just might be better off apart. I'm not saying that neither of them can ever win. I just don't know that they can do it together. It just feels like they.
See, Michael, I might have to push back on that simply because they've had a ridiculous amount of success when you look at the overall body of work.
Sure.
But that tells me this, though, that they can find a way to win, but for whatever reason, that one lesson that they need to learn to get over the hump, they haven't learned yet. And we all got kids. Sometimes the most basic fundamental things that your kids should learn, they know everything except that one thing, and you try to figure out why can he not know that 7 times 7 is 29?
I just cussed my son out last night talking about you either gonna learn the easy way or the hard way. So pray tell, what is the hard way for this team? What way has it not been taught to them?
Yeah, I think, I think it's here now, isn't it? Don't you think this is
the inflection point?
We thought rock bottom was going down 3-0 in that game 3 when they just kind of like everybody just gave up on them. But this is worse. As you put in your feed, let me put that feed item up there. The first feed item for Michael Smith. Let me tell you, I've heard of people wet in the bed. I don't know anybody. I really don't know. I mean,
That's how we say it.
I mean,
that's what we say.
I mean, the other thing, I don't know anybody who did that.
That's what we say.
I never did that. Not that I can remember. Okay, so that's what the Celtics did last night. The Celtics did that, and I think that's where you get it because I hate to keep going back to it, but their youth, they've been around so long, we kind of forget about their relative youth. Jaylen Brown is 26. Jason Tatum is 25.
You see wedding crashers? You see wedding crashers? We're not that young. Like they're not babies. They're not babies. Conference finals every year.
But here it is. They're not that young. But if you look at Jason Tatum's record in Game 7, it's a pretty good record in Game 7.
No doubt.
So even after last night's loss, so they've been there. They've had some, as Sherrod said, they've had that success, but they're just missing. They're like a whisper away from getting it, and I think they will. I think they'll get it. Like all these guys are under contract, Sherrod. Jaylen Brown, if he takes it. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Brogdon, Horford, Derek White, Marcus Smart. They're all under contract, so you don't really have to make any.
So Mike, you're in the running back, give it time camp. It sounds like, Michael, right?
With a tweak, with tweaks.
So what's the tweak? Like more coaches, better.
You know what I do?
Better constructed staff. What?
You know what I do? I'd move on from Joe Mazzulla. I'd move on from him, and not saying he's the number one problem. He's a part of the problem, but he's not like the biggest problem with this. But he's a part of the problem. They need somebody. Like they responded to Ime. Ime played in the league, not at a high level, but he played in the league. He had credibility, and he was raw. Ime was that dude. Like you could play cards with Ime.
But Sherrod,
like
but that's my problem.
Ime out there with Ice Cube saying, "Domino, mother." You know what I mean? He's that dude.
But that was my problem. But Sherrod, that was my problem after Game 3 when Mazzulla got up there talking about, I didn't have him ready to play. But say, man, this is the NBA. This is the NBA Finals. Like another coach how many coaches do they have to go through that they're gonna point the finger at for the players' shortcomings? And by the players, I mean the Jays. How many? I mean, it's on them. Like I don't care what they respond to. Why does a coach? What do you got to give a better motivational speech? Show a mysterious video to get them ready, like Spoelstra did, whatever the video was. It's like this ain't on Mazzulla.
But you know what?
But Spoelstra is also a strategist, though.
And he's the best coach in the damn NBA. Let's be real.
So they got out strategized in Game 7. That's what y'all telling me? Like this was an X's and O's.
Well, Michael, that
not
was
in Game 7. Game 1. Game 2.
Here's what Spo did. Spo took one of his bigs out and went super small with Haywood Highsmith in there. That gave Tatum and those guys problems. He also didn't play Kevin Love at all. He put chips all in on his wing guys because he knew that was the best pathway for them to be successful. And to me, Joe Mazzulla, there's a potential where he could be like so many other coaches and he'd be the fall guy when things don't work out for a team. But the Jays, they have to figure out how to be better leaders.
I was about to say, we're romanticizing Ime Udoka. This is not unlike the team that they were last year or even in the finals for that matter. And now it's like, wait a second. So we can talk about adjustments all we want. They make boneheaded mistakes. They're inconsistent in their effort and their focus. Like, it did not feel like somebody just drawing up circles around them. Michael, it felt like a more cohesive, more coherent, more mature team. And at a certain point, just with all of our children, you got to do the growing up. Hey, but so much I can tell you. See, now you're really going to get me fired up because it's taking me back to last night. Hey, but so much I could do. Hey, but so much I could say. You got to decide that this is not who you want to be. And I just don't know that the Jays together are capable of making that decision. To me, if it's schematic, it's from a skill set standpoint. They need an actual bona fide, no disrespect to Marcus Smart, floor general. They need something like floor general.
Mike, I agree with you. Like, the only thing we disagree on, Mike, and Sherrod, I want to get your take on this. Only thing I disagree with Mike on is breaking up the Jays. I do agree that the Celtics, the players, will have to figure it out too. They're going to have to figure it out on their own. I do think that they could use one of those old school point guards that we don't see a lot in the NBA anymore.
Like a Mark Jackson.
Like a Rajon Rondo, like a Mark. Yeah, seriously, like a guy like that who was just like who just really wants to be a playmaker. But that's okay. That's part of it. The other part of it is Eric Spoelstra for 3 years in 3 playoff series against the Celtics has brought out the zone in 3 playoff series, and they still haven't figured it out. He did it in the bubble. He did it last year. He did it and they haven't figured it out.
Here's the thing. thing about the zone defense is that if you have bigs who can actually score facing a basket, you could destroy a zone. And I thought Al Horford had so many opportunities where he's catching the ball in the middle of the paint, and he immediately swings it to the corner for a three. No, bro, shoot that damn 7-8-foot shot right in front of you. That's the way to get them out of the zone. Having gone to the school behind me, Syracuse, I've seen my share of zone, and I've seen my share of teams. All they do is find a big who can shoot, get him in the middle of the paint. He's either shooting a shot or finding someone cutting to the basket, or if your defense sags in, that zone defense sags in, he's swinging into a guy with a wide open three. That's how you beat a zone. But for whatever reason, the Celtics haven't quite figured out some of those
Sherrod,
basics of that.
I know you got 50-11 jobs. Why don't you go sit on the bench of Missoula? That seems to be what everybody's saying. They need to, like, he needs some more experience on the bench with him. Like, go pull up a chair next to him and help that staff out.
Somebody sent me an email saying, man, you need to go help second row Joe out there. I'm like, damn, seriously?
Second row Joe. Come on, man.
I said, damn.
That's cold.
That's what he was. That's what he was last year.
Though.
I know.
That's cold-blooded.
He was in the second row.
That's cold-blooded.
We know we have more work to do, but damn, is this hard. It is hard. It's hard business, and it's hard to survive 3 rounds just to get to that final round. We're extremely grateful for that. We're not even going to think about this next round until we get to Denver. And I wanted everybody to acknowledge just how difficult it is and, to enjoy this moment.
I know the work that we all put into it, so I know what we're capable of, but nobody's satisfied. We haven't done anything. We don't play just to win the Eastern Conference. We play to win the whole thing.
Meanwhile, Denver chilling in the cut, waiting, rested, at altitude. Both these teams could probably, I know one's a 1, one's an 8, both they could probably legitimately play that nobody respected us or respects us or gives us a chance, right, and we're the underdog card. So, all right, turning the page to the NBA Finals. What do the Heat have for the best player in the world and the best team in the Western Conference during the regular season and the most impressive team in the playoffs so far, if anything?
Since we're on Spike Lee movies today, I'm going to quote Malcolm X outside of Harvard when he was asked a question. His answer was, nothing.
What can a white woman like me do to help your cause? Nothing. they got nothing. So we gave all these flowers to the Heat, and now you telling me they about to get swept?
I don't think they're going to get swept, but I think Denver, you're right. We have just kind of looked past everybody else because they're bigger name organizations, not necessarily bigger name players than a two-time MVP like Jokic. But we've talked about the Warriors a lot during the season, talked about the Lakers a lot during the season. Memphis, on and off the court, came up quite a bit, and Denver was just steady all year long. We talked about Denver. We didn't really talk about Denver. We talked about Jokic. It was more like Jokic versus Embiid, but I think the nation is going to have a good time getting to know the Denver Nuggets as a team. Jokic and the Nuggets, and Murray, and Bruce Brown as a role player, and old Uncle
man
Jeff
Bruce
Green.
Brown. I need you to acknowledge that my man Bruce Brown still doing work. Okay, you know, it's my dude when he was in Brooklyn. You ain't want to respect Bruce Brown, but anyway, let's bring it.
Because the way you said it though, that's what I know we're gonna bring in. We got some company.
Yeah.
But you just happened to mention you threw him in company he had no business with.
I know.
And they got
Kevin Durant.
They got Durant, Harden, Kyrie. They got Bruce Brown.
Bruce Brown. I know. Hey, Bruce Brown in the finals. The rest of them jokers at home. Kurt Helin is a white man who can help our cause right now. He can make us a lot more educated on this NBA Finals matchup.
There it is.
I got
Denver's. Well, do the Heat have nothing? I mean, you're going to tell, like, the Heat aren't your garden variety AC. The Heat have got something. What is it, Kurt? What do they have for the rested Western Conference champion Denver Nuggets? How do you see this matchup playing out?
I mean, they do have an elite defensive center in Bam Adebayo, and they have a coach who will come up with schemes. They're gonna throw different looks at them. The problem is Jokic figures stuff out. He just plays at such a high IQ. He tore them up in their regular season games. His offensive rating was like 150 when the 2 games they played this season, because there's not a good matchup for him. And also the Nuggets were the best team in the league against zone defenses this year, because you can get Jokic in the middle, because they pass, because they can shoot over the top of them. So I think we're going to get to Spo pretty quickly throwing everything at a wall. Like, do you put Bam on Jokic, or do you, sacrifice Kevin Love or somebody and put him on Jokic and then have Bam as a helper? Like, I don't know that there's good answers. Spo is far smarter than I, but I'm not sure. How many arrows does he have to shoot in this thing?
Okay, hey, let's move on. We got plenty of time to continue to preview the final. Well, not plenty of time, we only got a couple of days. But a couple other stories I want to touch on with you with the time we have left, starting with the architect of the Golden State Warriors, Bob Myers. Not surprising. Like, does this make sense? It's not surprising, but shocking that this organization would allow him out of the door. Or maybe it's, like you said, it's time. Maybe it's just his call. What's going on here, and where do the Warriors go from here?
I think he felt he needed a change, and I'm not sure if this was something. I'm not sure that there was there's always a number, but I'm not sure there was a reasonable number that they were going to get to where he wanted to stick around. For whatever reason, I mean, this is a guy who was a player, was an agent. He's worn a lot of hats, and I think he genuinely is looking for a new challenge, whether that's with another franchise in a year or so, or professor at Stanford or something like I could see him going a lot of different directions, right?
I can see it.
I just think he was ready for something new, and I don't think the timing's a coincidence. This does feel like, it feels like an era's ending there, and this just feels like a big domino falling. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I look at. I understand. I like the way you said, look, he could be a professor at Stanford, and it's kind of a joke, but we can see it. I mean, he's a compelling, really bright guy too. But I look at it, I know people like challenges in their careers. He's 48 years old. He's won 4 championships with the Warriors. He's been there for a dozen years. And I just can't help thinking, meddling, that the owner's son, it probably got to him. You think that was a part of it? At some point, you're like, hey, I've been doing this for a long time. I kind of know what I'm doing. And the owner's kid, get him out of here. Do you think that was a part of the reason he wants to do something else?
I think the internal dynamics there played a factor. How much of that is Kirk LaCobe, who is going to have a larger role now, even the original reporting, he's going to have a larger role with Mike Dunleavy. I mean, they haven't announced this yet, but Mike Dunleavy will run the show. Evolving into whatever comes next they're trying to win with Curry, but if they bring back, hey, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, we'd like to extend your contracts and bring you back. How about less money? That is always a great conversation to have. Would you like less money to come play for us? So I don't know. It's a tough spot for them, and I think Myers kind of read the writing on the wall, didn't like the dynamics in-house enough to think it was worth sticking out. I think if this were San Antonio and he felt he had more control over basketball operations with a less meddling owner, would he have stayed? I don't know.
Let's hit a couple of social media stories, if you will. You a big Jay-Z fan?
I'm a Jay-Z fan. I don't know if I'd go with big.
Okay. But you recognize Jay-Z lyrics when you see it.
Oh, yeah.
Such as, the end of What More Can I Say? I'm supposed to be number one on everybody's list. Let's see what happens when I no longer exist. What More Can I Say? Black Album. LeBron quoted Jay-Z in his stories. I'll just stir in the pot, to which I respond yet again with another lyric from The Takeover is, we don't believe you, you need more people. So is LeBron, is he just trying to just kind of stay at top of mind here? Or is he having some reflective moments on the couch being like, you know what? I'm not going to leave predictably the way y'all think I will. I'm serious that y'all going to miss me when I'm gone. And by the way, he ain't number one on my list. But anyway, that's a separate conversation. What's LeBron still doing here right now?
First off, if you like Jay-Z and some like 2010 hip hop, you just need to hang out in the Laker locker room because LeBron controls the playlist, baby, and that's all it
Does
is.
he? Yeah. All right.
I think he's stirring the pot a little. I just can't believe he's walking away. I can't believe he is stepping away from the game. I think he is frustrated. I think I don't know what's the Bill Parcells line. If you're thinking about retiring, you're retiring.
Yeah.
I think he is starting to think about it, but I don't think the $97 million plays into it, but I think he thinks this team, I think he thinks they can get there. And I think the Bronny thing is real, even if Bronny may not be into it, but I don't know if Bronny's jumping one and done to the NBA or not, with how much money he's going to make in NIL. I don't know if it's actually the wisest financial move for him. But I don't know. He's thinking about it, but do you guys really think he's going to jump? You really think he's going to walk away?
I don't think he's going to, but I do think he's thinking about it. One more thing we got to get your thoughts on, though, is my man Eric Lewis. I'll make this quick, Michael, and then you can take it. If you got to have a burner account to defend yourself on Twitter from criticism, you probably need a different job. Just don't be an official. Hey. Nobody's making you be a referee if you can't take it. Right, Michael?
Hey, but I wouldn't say that, though. I mean, look, I think it's hilarious, but this is the only voice they can have. They're not allowed to talk. They want to correct the record. It's not just officials. We know Kevin Durant, Kurt. He had his burner account, still does. Remember Roger Goodell's wife had a burner account. She wanted to support him. Brian Colangelo had one in Philly.
Oh. All for various reasons were whack. Hey. All for various reasons are whack. Hey. It's like if you that thin skinned,
you got one.
If you got a burner account, Kurt, do something else. Kurt, nobody knows who you are.
Helin, you got one? You got a burner?
I have like 4 accounts, but I literally only tweet out of the one. I swear to God, I've got like 4. I've got one that follows some basketball stuff, and then I've got like one that just follows chefs. Like I have a whole line in my Twitter, my tweet deck. It's just.
Here's a question. But does anybody know or care what his burner account was saying? It's not like it was like the record was nobody. I never heard of this account. So what are you doing? What impact are you having?
Who hunted this out and said, what, this had to be a referee? Like who thought this had to be a referee and hunted it out, man? How much time?
That's the most attention this account isn't. Right. Thank you. I ain't got time to be going back and forth with you ninjas. I'm sorry. I'm not about to sit up here and argue people on Twitter.
They can't help it.
Hey, if you're free Thursday night, follow through. Join us on YouTube for NBA Finals Game 1 watch party. Bring your own snacks. Michael gonna be on the wheels of steel. Take your feet off when you come in my house.
I'll take some requests. I'm taking some requests. We'll see y'all, though. Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.